Hello, everyone, and thanks very much for the opportunity to share with you today, to share with you Wild Apricot. Today, our focus is talking about events and event registration. And the ability to create events and do the processing in Wild Apricot is part of the subscription, and there are no additional fees, which I think is a very nice feature of Wild Apricot. Um, Part of any nonprofit organization is, community of the membership community, and education is a big part, I know, of the VPC organization, and I appreciate the opportunity to share this with you today. So our focus today is the Wild Apricot events module. And our agenda is really to show you how the events are created, how the registrations can be viewed. You can see which members or which contacts have actually registered for an event, to be able to see the event registration process from the point of view of one of your guests. So if somebody goes on to vapc.org/events and fills out the registration form, what's happening for them kind of behind the scenes, and so that you can see from the Wild Apricot panel what's actually happening for you. So I'm going to change my view to be able to show you the actual behind the scenes in Wild Apricot. So right now you should, in a moment, your screen should refresh and you'll be able to see the events module in the sort of back end of Wild Apricot. And you have a really interesting event coming up on the 16th of August, which is with the O'Connor Brewing Company. So this is the dashboard, and the sort of when Gail is logged into Wild Apricot, this is what an event looks like behind the scenes. But let's just go over to your website, the vapc.org website, and this is what the event would look like to a visitor to your site. And essentially, the way Wild Apricot is working as a plugin or a widget, it's embedded in your VAPC WordPress site, and the details are automatically pulled from the Wild Apricot system to be displayed here. So once Gail or anybody else who has access to be able to create an account, once the event is created, then it would be visible here on this page, and it allows the visitors or the guests to be able to start the registration process by clicking on the register button here. And this event has a fee. Not all events will be a fee that's levied, but the process of the registration allows the guest to be able to choose whether they will pay online or whether they will pay by invoice. So if a payment for an event is required, then PayPal is used for the online portion of the purpose of the event, of gathering those funds. So back to Wild Apricot, and in the view that we are looking at, which I'm just have to refresh my page. I know that you're seeing an access denied error. That's something that's been happening today. Both Gail and I have seen just a little sort of hiccup, if you will, as far as the actual login to Wild Apricot. If you can just bear with me a moment, I need to log in again to have access to that screen that we were looking at that's behind the scenes, if you will. So up on the top right corner here, I'm clicking on Admin View, and then going back into the event list. That's the destination that I want to go to. And right now we are on the main dashboard, and I'm going to hover over events to go to the event list. Okay, so I'd like you to see the details for the brewery tour. I'd like to sort of step through the details for this event, and then we'll actually create an event from scratch. But I think it might be helpful for you to see the details for an event which is in existence, so that you can see what kind of information will be required if you are creating an event yourself in the future. And I understand from Gail that currently she is the one who is creating most of the events. And in the future, the goal is that perhaps district leaders may create events in the future, or other people, as you know, the board changes and other people come on and wear different hats. You know, I know that in many nonprofit organizations that lots of people wear lots of different hats, and that's why I love Wild Apricot so much, because it helps to streamline a lot of the administration that's required for managing an organization like yours. So the first thing we have on this screen are the event details. And this gives you an opportunity. I'm actually going to go into edit mode, and then you can see the places where we have the opportunity to add information. So it's requesting, to begin with, it's going to request a title. And that's the title you would see on the web page when that's going to be an appealing title and descriptive, so that you can capture someone's attention and say, hey, I'd like to go and see that event or participate with that event. And every event, so this is the title here, and every event will have a unique URL. And so this URL here can be copy and pasted if you are doing a promotional email to advertise this event. You could send them directly to the vapc.org/events page. But if you were to make a sort of, it's a courtesy really, to make this specific event link available, and then that would land your visitors right into this event for those, and they would have all of the details on this event. There's probably benefits in both ways, that if you send them just to the events page, they can see all of your upcoming events. But if you're talking about specifically this event, that URL is available for you there. So essentially, on the left side of the screen, we have a start date and an end date, a start time and an end time, a location, and where it says use default organization settings, this is something that is configured during the initial setup of Wild Apricot for your organization, so that it already knows the name of the organization, the address, and what have you. So those details are just pulled from where they've already been configured in the beginning. So that's a simple a simple check mark there to say yes, go ahead and use the default settings. In the next item here, we have show registrants who want to be listed to everyone, to members only, or we may not want to do that. And I believe that Gail has that. It is turned on the event registration page, which we'll go back to after we've had a look through this setup in configuration in here, and then you can see the effect of it on the actual page for the event. So over in the right screen here, this is where you would actually put your text that you want to describe the event. And if anybody has participated in the newsletter webinar last week, I mentioned the importance of taking your content, which maybe you have already created a Word document or a document which contains pretty much most of the details that you'll need, and you're going to copy that and you want to use it on this web page. But I really strongly recommend, before you paste that content into the web page here for the description, that you would put it into a notepad or a text editor to make sure that the formatting has been stripped out, and that we're not going to get any conflict between the HTML code that's going on behind the scenes here and the Word code or whichever program you might be using. So again, all of the features are available at the top here, that you can insert images, which has already been done here. You have an image at the top. You can insert files, links. You can format with bold, italic, change the size of the font and what have you, as we discussed in the webinar for newsletters last week. Once you have all of the information included, there is a little box at the bottom here which says additional event information to be inserted in the registration confirmation email. Excuse me, and this says meet up in the lounge. So this is a little snippet of information which is going to be available to the people who have registered, but the people who are not registered will not see that. that will only become available to the folks who've actually completed a registration. So once we're happy with all of the content here as far as the event details go, then we want to look at the registration form. And the registration form comes with a lot of options. There's lots of information that can be gathered, and it's not necessary to have every single piece of information. So each event can be customized so that when you have your registration form, you're only collecting the information that is required for that specific event itself. So this is totally custom to this event on August 16th coming up next month. And the way that you can change this is just literally by, it's a toggle. You can turn it on and turn it off. There's a check mark that would go in to the box, and that means it would be included, and the ones that are empty will not be included in the form. Registration types is, every event will need at least one registration type. And in this case, we have members and guests. There could be some events that you might have which are members only, and so the registration type there would be shown as members only. Again, every event can be customized so that we can always have a choice over the type of registration that we're having available here. But if I wanted to add a new type here, we can do that by clicking on, actually, you know what? I'm not going to do this in Gail's live event. I'll show you how to add registration types when we go into the event that I've created for demonstration purposes today, but this is a real event, so I'm actually not going to go and make any changes to that. You can breathe, Gail. Don't click that button. So I wouldn't want to jeopardize anything in there. So emails is the flow of emails that happen when an event a person registers for an event and a registration comes through, and also announcements to remind people about what's happening. We can remind people so many days before the event, both people who have and have not registered, and we can send reminders to those people who have registered already. So I'll show you that a little bit more detail in the event when we come to actually do the event creation. The organization contact will default to Gail at the moment, but it can be changed. If we click on change here, it will show you a list of people's details in here, and you can choose whoever you want to be the organizer, and then they will be the ones who will, when you see event organizer down here clicked, then they would take on that role, and then they would be receiving the event registration details, and rather than everything going to Gail. So that's a good option there, that you have that flexibility. At the moment, I created this test one account this morning just to show that there was somebody in here, and Gail is also registered. Now, it's really good actually that we have these two choices to show you that in my case, I was choosing to have my payment processed by invoice, whereas Gail has chosen to pay her fee online already. So you can see the difference over here in the payment status column, that Gail's is showing as paid, and my test record is showing as balance due of $16. And then we can manually click into record payment to process that payment then, and then it would show that it was actually paid as well. So for this, I'm going to cancel from edit mode here, just so that I want you to see that at the top of the screen, you'll be able to see the option when the screen has refreshed. Okay, so at the top of the screen here, you'll see there's a reports option, and you can actually nicely create an attendance list, which when you've got lots of people registered, it's very nice just to be able to have this system create the list for you, and you can see how it organizes it nicely, and you have the circle over here to be able to put a check mark for those people who've actually attended. So these are showing a list of the registrants, And on the day of your event, you would print this out, take it along with you to the event, and literally be able to check off who is in attendance, and also whether any amounts need to be collected. So this is a double check really as far as the payment status as well. And there's also a little place over here for notes if anybody has anything, so that you've got a really nice, concise page for you to be able to print. And I recommend exporting it to PDF rather than printing from this screen. And you've got more control then when you're actually printing the PDF file. And then you have it as a record of your attendance if you wanted it to be separate from the Wild Apricot system. If you export to PDF and then you have that file, and perhaps there's other information that you might have regarding the event, and you can have that PDF file all in the same location then. So I'll just go back one screen, and I just like to bring your attention to the top of the buttons that are across the top here. So we've come back to event details, and so this is where we, when we click on events and then event list, and we choose this event from the list, across the top here we have the ability to click on edit, which is what I did at the beginning, to edit the content. If we realize there's an error or there's something that we need to change, we can do that, and then save again. Duplicate would create a copy of this event, which is a brilliant idea to be able to do that, because lots of organizations have events which are recurring. Be kind of nice to have this one as a recurring event, but it could be that your board meetings, conferences, things like that are on a annual or quarterly basis. And so if you've got the base information is already, the information is already in there, and you might just need to be tweaking the date and time, something like that. So making a duplicate is a very simple way to do that. And I will show you how to do that in a few moments. Delete event is gone. If you happen to delete event, it is gone and cannot be restored. So that is to be used with caution. There is an ability to export the registrants. If you click on that button, it's going to give you the opportunity to choose either all of the fields, or you can be selective about which fields. You can select all and clear all. If you just want to have maybe 5 or 6 of these options included, it's easier to clear all and then just select the actual 5 or 6 items that you're interested in, and it will export it to an Excel document, and then you can manipulate the data. But you can see that there's a lot of options as far as how many pieces of information it is making available to you. So there's lots of scope with that. If you wanted to manually add a registrant, if someone called you up and said that they have heard about your event and would like to participate, but they are not able to register themselves online, this is where you can come in and manually add a registration. And if you want to send an email to all registrants, you can do so if something has changed and you want to alert them to a change of venue or a change of time or an addition or just a general reminder about the event that's coming up. Then you can send an email, and that will only go to the people who are registered. So currently only these 2 registrations, those 2 people would be the only ones receiving. But as you get closer to the event and you have more and more registrations, this is a very nice way to be able to email everybody that is registered. And then on the reports, I mentioned the attendance list. There is also something called registration fields report. And in the registration form, we just looked briefly, and we'll go into it in a little more detail when we create an event. This, excuse me, we could actually customize the registration. I'm just thinking about an example might be if you had a meal and you wanted to provide food choices, for example, you wanted people to pre-select their food, then you could have this available in here. And so this report will give you the opportunity to customize how much information you want in the report, and then you would be able to see what the selections that have been made. And again, I'll show that in a little more detail on the next event that we look at. And the final report is registrations by type. So in this case, we only have one registration type. So that report really would be redundant because it's just going to show us everybody. But you could have, in certain organizations and certain events, there could be multiple types. And so that report could be very useful and beneficial to, to that organization that wanted to be able to see the different types. So I think the thing I want to sort of leave you with at the moment, with having looked at one event, let's just go back to the website, your VAPC website, and actually look at the event. Now that you've had a look behind the scenes, you can see that we have the title, we have the date, the start and end time, location. Now I believe I don't. I'm just going to leave that. It's showing one registrant, but we know there's two because Gail has registered as well. That's really just showing me, and I'm not going to refresh the page just now. But this is showing all of the details, and you can actually click on, if I click on register, then this would go through. Now it's because I'm logged in here as Gail, it's showing Gail's information. So if you can bear with me, I'm actually just going to change my screen share to show you a different view. I'd like to show you my PDF file. If I can change screens and go here. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I'm hoping that you can now see a PDF file which is showing the same image of what you just saw on the VAPC website, but this is where I actually clicked through register and I was able to complete a registration. And I just wanted to step you through what I saw as I was going through this process, so that you can see, you've been behind the scenes and you've seen how the event was created. You've been onto the VAPC website to see the event as it's shown to the public. And now I'd like to show you the different screenshots that I took as I was going through my registration process with this test registration today. So it is the opportunity to confirm that you're on the right event. You have the title, the registration type is there, the amount, and then this is where you would put all of your guest information or registrant information would be in there. And all the way down to the bottom here is where I would click on next, so that I could actually complete to review it one more time and complete the registration. And once I've hit confirm, then I would be presented with the opportunity of choosing how I would like to pay this bill. Now, if you remember, on the back end of the event view, you could see that Gail had chosen to pay online. So she would have clicked on this button and that would take her to PayPal, which I'll show you on the next screen. And in my case, as it was a test record, I left it with the invoice, and that can just be deleted really. We'll cancel that registration. But I think it's helpful to be able to see what your visitors would be seeing as they go through the registration process. And this is the view that Gail would have received as she chose to pay either with PayPal or with a credit card. And so that people these days are very aware of using PayPal as an option for processing payments. And so that is a nice feature that you have that available, and then those funds would be transferred to the VPC account. So I'm just going to change back to VPC, back to the web page now. And so there you have it, as far as an event, showing you how it looks on the web page, showing you how it looks behind the scenes, and showing you the registration process. So how about what happens when you come in here and you would like to create a brand new event? Now it can be a brand new event created you can create a new event two ways: by clicking on the new event button here, which will give you the opportunity. I apologize. I think I've been logged out again. That's just a wild apricot picky thing today. So excuse me, I have to just log back in again to go to that view. So I'm logging back in to be able to view the dashboard back into admin view. So I will try to limit the screens that we change so that that does not happen again. I apologize. So we're going to events, event list, and I was in the process of creating a new event, and I hesitate to click the button. I don't want to get kicked out, but I'm going to because I want you to see that screen that should come up. Here we go, behaving now very nicely. So this is the view that you would see with a brand new event that you're creating from scratch, where you are going to enter all of the information and make all of the choices about the registration form and the registration types. And if you think back to the previous view when we were looking at the August 16th event, that had enable registration. This is a very nice feature where the event is an admin only view until you are happy with it, until you are ready to go public. And so at that point you would enable registration. So this is where we can actually populate this with the information. So this is our event. So we'll call it our event on July 23, that's today. And currently it doesn't have a unique URL here. It's showing you the actual web address of your Wild Apricot account. Once we've saved this event, then it will have its own unique address. And if we say, actually I'm going to change the date here to July 31st and change this to July 31st. And the location, we will say it's in Virginia, and we'll use the default organization settings. And over here, we would say details to go here. And again, we can add hyperlinks in here. We can add files, images, lots of opportunity to completely, give a really thorough description like Gail did with the brewery tour, so that they can have a lot of information in there. And a little lower down on the screen, this is where you have the opportunity to show the registrants who want to be listed. We're going to show that to everyone or to members only. And I'm going to leave that with everyone. The time, we can choose the time for starting. Let's choose 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock. And then I'm going to just save that because I want you to see how that URL has changed to a specific URL now. It's been given an actual customized URL that you can see there, that you'll be able to copy that and use that if you're promoting it to anybody. Now, we haven't yet given it a registration form. We haven't done that or the details. So I'm going to go back into edit mode and choose the registration form features that we want to have on. Now, by default, when you come in here, it does show all common, excuse me, just going to have a sip of water, excuse me. It does by default come on with all common fields selected, and you can turn that off and turn off some of these features if you don't want to have all of those in here. In this case, we might not be interested in home address, for example. So we'll turn that off. All of that can go down there. And we will just leave the business information for this purposes on this one. Now we can also add new fields at the very bottom of the screen. There is an opportunity to add new fields, and it gives you a lot of scope as far as the type of content, and each button or each selection has different sort of different reasons why you would choose a certain thing. So if it's multi-line text, for example, that's going to give you a lot more room as opposed to single piece of text. If you have multiple choice, that's going to give you the options where you want, maybe it's meal choice in this one, this example. it could be chicken, beef, vegetarian, and say done. And then you can see that it's going to put these in. You also have the opportunity to have it sort A to Z, or the other way, Z to A, and whether or not people can select multiple items. So it really, before you even start to come into Wild Apricot, having as much detail of your event and the options that are available, especially if you're planning something like a conference where you have a lot of details, it does take a lot of forethought to be able to come up with all of the many options that might be presented on a registration form. And we can actually make this a required field by checking in this box here. And that will mean that when they attempt to do their registration, if they haven't made a selection from these options that are available, then it would say, hey, you know, you've missed a field here. Please go ahead and make that selection. So I'm going to, and sorry, to continue on down the options with the new types of fields. You can see my meal choice here corresponds with the field label that I've given it here. This is showing that this red asterisk is showing it's a required field. And to carry on down this list, this is giving you the opportunity to say it can be, we can add a multiple choice feature, but there might be different charges available if we, actually I'm just going to add another E to close that. Sorry, so that we have meal choice. So you do need to add them one at a time. So the meal choice is selected, and now we're on another new field. And I wanted to demonstrate the multiple choice, but with an extra charge. And it could be that you have a VIP package perhaps. And so you would give that option with the appropriate charge, and the same idea that you would be able to add that and keep on adding multiple new fields, and when you eventually come to save it, it will capture all of your choices there. Down to the next one is radio buttons, where you might have you know, a preference as far as, you know, seating or lots. I'm drawing a blank there on what that could be. I wanted to say, you know, tea or coffee, for example. So if we wanted tea or coffee with your break, maybe you're going to have a breakout session and you're trying to estimate how much tea and how much coffee might be required, then you could add that one. We go down to add new field. So we have meal choice, tea or coffee, and another new field. And again, the same principle with we just added with the radio buttons. You could also do radio buttons with an extra charge. There can also be just an extra charge calculation by itself for, you know, a premium, for perhaps some extra time, some training, lots of scope there to be able to add in additional charges if required. A drop-down list is, again, same principle where you're adding a new field, and I'll just call this drop-down so we know the configuration that we've chosen. And what else have we got? Rules and terms. That's something else that we can add in. We can copy either the text or the link that we would like to provide to the content for the rules and terms for the event. You know, there could be rules around, you know, must register by a certain date. The terms could be cancellation, rules around cancellations. The date is literally date, and then a section divider is just to make it kind of, it breaks up the form itself. And I think that's it. If we can save this now, and then I'll let you see what that, oops, sorry, field error is not unique. So I've attempted to add a field, and I left it called new field, and it doesn't like that, obviously, because we can't do that. So I'm going to delete this one and rename this divider. and close and save. And then if we scroll down the list, I apologize, it won't let me go any further down the screen. So the tea or coffee option is available there, the drop down and the meal choice. Now we're not going to see this at the moment until we actually look at the event. But that's where that information has been captured so that the choices can be recorded as far as selections go. Next, we'll move over to registration types. And at least this, in case you forget to do this, it will say, if you try to make the event live, it will ask you to enable at least one registration type here. So this is a good reminder. And if we say add type on this button, we'll do general. This is just general admission. We're not having any fees for this event. We could use, this one is going to be available to everyone, but if we wanted to say members only, it could be that there's a specific level of membership that we just want to include. Or it could be that we're going to leave this one, in this case, for everyone. And how long is this registration going to be open? If we leave this blank, it's going to be available right up until the event date that we can actually register all the way up till July 31st. So I'm going to leave that blank at the moment and just leave it so that it's open for registration. And click on save and then go back to the actual event. So we were in the registration types and we have a general admission, public is welcome, zero cost. And we could add additional types in here if we wanted to change that and make it, you know, different levels. You could have a silver and bronze, gold, lots of different tiers. The emails section is for the event organizer. Now in this case, again, it's defaulted to Gail's email and organization contact. And what, as I mentioned earlier, it's possible to change that. Once you click on organization contact, it will bring up a list of the contacts that you have in your system and allow you to reassign that so that you have a new organization contact, which is important because that person can then monitor the event registration process and see how, you know, the events are going. And this can be set here. Event registration confirmed can be changed so that it's actually activated so that it will be sent to the event attendee and the event organizer, which is a good thing to do. I think in most cases you want the event attendee to receive confirmation, and as the organizer you might also want to receive an email, or you might choose not to and just decide that you are going to come into the Wild Apricot system on a regular basis to monitor registrations, but that's certainly an option here that you've got available. On this first column over here, we have announcements, where this is speaking about the people who have not yet registered. So this first column is talking about an email announcements not yet registered. So this one we could schedule and say, you know, the frequency or the time that we would like to send maybe a reminder 14 days before the event, 10 days before the event, 3 days before the event, but also want to be really careful not to be spammy with that you want to make sure that you know, you don't want people to miss an event that they'd like to attend, but you also don't want to bother them with too many emails. So it's a bit of a balance really with that. And what you're doing here is saying, please send this email. It could be initially you might, sorry, that's because my event is in July 31st. And where now it automatically knows the date it's going to send is going to be the 28th because the system has backed it back 3 days. So it's very, very intuitive as far as making the schedule there. And then giving me that warning that I was trying to say, send out a reminder 10 days before, but we're not, you know, we haven't got 10 days. Excuse me. Sorry about that. In Okay, so we'll schedule that so that you can see how that changes. Announcement 28th of July. So the 3 days before the event, that's going to go to people who have not yet registered. If we want to send a reminder to those folks who have registered, then we can send this, excuse me. So sorry about that. We can send this reminder to those who are already registered, perhaps just 2 days before the event, and say, hey, we're really excited that you're joining us for this event. Reminder, we're meeting in the lounge, or whatever the little specific details that you'd like to pass on, and then make that available. So just 2 days before. So you can see how this has changed here. The announcement one, the reminder one, event registrations are going to be sent to the organizer and the registrant. Now the content of those emails is actually configured by sort of the system itself, by the Wild Apricot system. And what it's doing is pulling in, by the use of macros, it will be pulling in the event title, the event date, the description that you've used for the event. And so it's quite a good system to be able to, I'll say, trust that the emails that the people are going to be receiving, whether you're still attempting to promote the event, or if you are in the process of communicating with those people who have registered. Now in here you can see copy emails according to email routing settings, and that's a configuration that is set for the organization as a whole. And I'm going to speak with Gail just to make sure that she, in case she has any questions about that. But essentially what that means is that you can have the emails routed to, for example, if in your organization, if you had someone who was the event manager, for example. So while we have Gail creating events, you might also want the emails to go to someone who was, let's say, the event manager, or it could be someone who looks after finance, who has the task of kind of balancing the books, let's say. And so you want to, this is an opportunity to do the email routing in a way that suits the way that your organization operates, really. And I don't want to go into too many details here, because this is not something that you really need to set up on an event by event basis. This is set up on an organization wide system, and really it's just either yes or no. If you check yes, copy emails according to email routing, then that will happen. If that is left blank, then that will not happen. So I hope that is clear, but I don't want to get into why email, for discussion about email routing really is not, I don't think this is the place for that, but certainly I'll be glad to speak with Gail and see how your organization is doing that. But that's just a yes or no. Are we going to copy the emails or not? So we're going to leave that blank right now and save. And then in the last row, in the last item here is registrants. And of course, we haven't enabled registration, still disabled, so we wouldn't have any registrants in here. So we are still in the disabled mode. And the way that we make it enabled is to go back onto event details and edit, and click on enable registrations, and then save. And that will mean that now, sorry, admin only. Yeah, I've got this as an ad. I don't really want to put this on your website, but I hope I've kept this sort of available within here. But essentially, if you click public, then it is going to be available to the public. But those are the steps that are involved with creating an event from scratch. With saying, when we were on the event list, we actually clicked on this create new event, and we started right from the beginning to create this event here for July 31st. Now I would like to show you what's happened when I created a duplicate account this morning, I chose the VPC board meeting. Excuse me. I chose the VPC board meeting and created a duplicate account. I apologize, my voice is getting very weak. Excuse me a second. I'm going to mute for a moment and have a drink. Excuse me. Thank you very much. Sorry about that. I usually can talk with no problem, but there we go. So I created a duplicate account by clicking on duplicate, and the event that I created it from was the VPC board meeting, which is down here. So VPC board meeting, I clicked on duplicate, and that's all you need to do. And it, voila, all of a sudden it is available for you then, and it prefixes the title with copy. And that's all there is to it. And I don't want to create another duplicate. It's just that simple. You hit the duplicate button. You can actually duplicate an event from within the event as well. Just for example, if I can step back to this brewery tour, and if we wanted to duplicate this event, we could literally click on duplicate up here. So there's always many different ways. I like this feature here because you can exactly see the button over on the right there, and it's very simple to do that either one of those two ways. So here is a copy of the VPC board meeting, and I think after the last going through the process of creating an event from scratch, you can really appreciate how much time it saves if you already have a meeting in existence that you can then copy and then just tweak. So perhaps we want to change this date to a time in the future. Let's say it's going to be August 21st. And once I can change this to take away the copy, modify the title. In this case, we'll include the date, August 21. And this one is a very, very simple event to create because it's a board meeting. There's no, no money changing hands. It's a very simple event to set up. So you can see that the information that's required is the location. We've used the organization default information on the registration form. You can see that there's less information is required. So from the point of view of this red asterisk showing you what is required, you can see that it's much less, shorter amount of information. And the registration type is all are welcome. And if I click into that, you can see a little description, all are welcome, free, and back a screen to show the emails. Excuse me. And this is where we were talking about the organization contact. In this case, it's defaulted again to Gail, and this is where we can configure our announcements and our reminders and what have you. So all of that is consistent and would have been inherited from the original event that we copied from, so the original VPC board meeting. And again, because this is a new event, there will be no registrants yet because we haven't actually enabled it, so it's still disabled. So you can see what a great time saver it is to have your events that are recurring have the ability to be able to copy them, tweak them, publish them, and then there they will be available, for your folks to be able to register. Now, if you want to see how, if anybody is actually going to your events, there's many ways of doing that. For example, if we click on events and then event list, you can look at the event title, you can see how many registrations there are, and then in the past events you can see how many registrations were in the past events. If I want to come in and say, okay, I can see there's 2 people registered for this one, I wonder who that is, we could click on the event title and click on registrants, and here we can see Gail and this test account. Then we can click on Gail's name or any one of the registrants, and you can actually see the contact information for Gail. And if this person, Gail, had said, oh, I'm really sorry, now I can't attend, then you could actually cancel registration here, and you can process it that way. The other way to see who is attending is by going into the list of your folks in your system. And for example, this is what a contact record would look like. So you've got, and we'll be speaking about the directory, the actual membership directory next week. But in this case, if I wanted to look at the events that Mary Ellen had attended, then I could see that it is, at this point, it's just the spring conference. But if you have, as your membership grows in 2 years, 5 years, you'll be able to look back and see the history of all of your membership on an individual level and also on an event level as well. So you could look at it from either direction, so that you could see how many people had attended, and you could also see each specific person from the actual list here. So I think that was everything that I had in relation to events. And I'm just going to invite Gail to let me know if there's any questions or comments or anything that I may have missed that you'd like me to mention.
Does anybody have any questions? Please send them in through the chat box if you do. I hope you can find the chat box. I haven't gotten any questions or any comments through the chat box, but it is live. You should be able to find it at the bottom of the screen. And all you have to do is type in your name and email address and then a question.
So just while we're waiting, in case there are any questions, I'll just mention that with the PowerPoint, with this presentation, I will pass on to Gail for posting below the webinar recording. And this is just a link to some of the Wild Apricot resources that they make available with regard to events. It's quite detailed to set up events, so that it's a good it's good to know that these resources are available if you want to go back and have a little refresh if it's not something that you use frequently. And so I hope that's been helpful for you today. I'm grateful to be able to share. Wild Apricot, I think, is very powerful, and I hope it's helpful for you as you're growing your membership. And that happened because I just clicked on one of those hyperlinks, and so this is giving me an invitation to go and visit one of those sites, and I actually don't want to do that right now. So that's it, Gail, I think, for me.
Okay.